Good morning. I would like to talk this morning about something that's been weighing on my mind for the past while now. And it has been brought to the forefront of my mind after the recent hurricanes on the eastern seaboard of the United States. Absolutely catastrophic, scary, and it has led me to make this video about preparedness, about prepping. I want to make something very clear. I personally am not a traditional prepper. I don't hoard things. I don't stockpile things. Um, I don't live in that fear of not having, and I'll explain why a little bit later in this video. I'm not your traditional prepper, but I do believe in preparedness. So what do I mean by that? Well, and what's the difference between preparedness and prepping? Well, what is preparedness? Preparedness is the ability to get through emergencies like natural disasters, that can also be national, economic disruptions like loss of income, illness, pandemics, etc. Power outages. Power outages can happen for any reason. Product shortages due to supply chain disruptions, and mobility disruption, where you just can't leave your house for whatever reason. Maybe the road was washed out, maybe there's bad weather, maybe I don't know, your car broke down, I don't know, but you have a disruption in your mobility. So preparedness is being able to get through situations like that easily and without too much concern. So what do we need in order to be prepared for any of these instances? Well, you need food, you need water, you need energy, you need a way to prepare your food, you need a way to provide electricity, or a way to cool, heat your house, and you need clothing, shoes, things like that. You also need to have a way to go to the bathroom that is sanitary. So how do we prepare? And this is where I differ from the average prepper. Most people will stockpile food and water, stockpile their miscellaneous needs, be it medications, I don't know, sanitation. They'll find ways to stay warm or cool depending on their climate. They'll find a way to cook their food. Like they'll have things ready in the event of a disaster, in the event that they need it. And that is a traditional prepper. And I think that's fantastic. I think that we need more people in the world who are prepared to withstand catastrophes, emergencies. But here's where I differ. I don't think that's enough. It's not enough. Just prepping is not enough. Why? You can stockpile food, but what if we aren't at home when it happens? What if we don't have access to what we've stockpiled? Anything can happen at any time. What if you went to town, or you went to go visit family, or something happens and you cannot reach your stockpile? It's the same thing with water. If you've prepped and you have no access to these things, another reason is that stockpiling isn't 100% enough. And don't get me wrong, I believe that we need to have something. However, it runs out. You can only stockpile for X amount of time. Sure, you can stockpile for 5 years, you can stockpile for 10 years, you can stockpile for a lifetime. But nutritionally and mentally, I don't know if that's going to be good for anybody, because I really don't think that we're going to be isolated from other humans for, a decade. If so, then we've got greater problems than just food. So the supplies can run out. Another thing that can happen is that those supplies can be ruined. They could be ruined in a flood. They can be ruined in a fire. They could be ruined with wind. Anything. They can be stolen. Anything. So prepping is not enough. But that's all we can do. We can't do anything more than that. Well, sure we can. Sure we can. Absolutely. And this is where I differ from regular preppers. If you take a look at all the many homesteaders and the homesteading community online, and those who live in Tennessee and the Carolinas, especially North Carolina, and how they survived Hurricane Helene, they did rather well, and they didn't have to worry. Sure, they had their energy needs taken care of, but even if they didn't have electricity, they were still fine, because they had their canned food, they had their dried food, they had their wells, they had, some people didn't have access to their well, but that's okay, because they had water, they had means. And the fact that they had their animals, the fact that they had their homestead, meant that life pretty much went on as normal, other than not having electricity. That is the ultimate way to survive some sort of a catastrophe, power outage, things like that. Now, some of the farms did get washed out completely. A lot of people lost their animals. A lot of people, they lost everything. And if you live in the Midwest and there's a tornado, you're at risk of losing everything too. So homesteading is not the answer. So prepping, stockpiling is not 100% the answer. Homesteading is not 100% the answer. But when you have two of those combined, awesome. But what happens when you don't have these things left because they were destroyed or, disappeared somehow? This is what I think is the most important aspect of being prepared. And that is having a community. Not being alone, being a part of a community. Now, most of us are part of an online community. We have extended family. We've got friends who live X number of miles from us, some closer, some further. But the important thing, I think, is to have a community that's close enough that you can rely upon them in the event of a disaster. A lot of the Hurricane Helene, for example, a lot of the churches, the local churches, came through, and they were the community that people relied upon. A lot of the homesteaders, they went to go check on their friends. Maybe it took a day to get there, maybe it took 2 days to get there, but the point is they had somebody, they knew that they have friends that they can rely upon, who will come check on them, who will make sure that they have everything they need. A community is extremely important. So if you have a community of like-minded people, a community of people who are prepared, not necessarily similar to yourself, because again, if everybody does the same thing and that's not working, that's not going to help anyone. But if you have community members that each one is prepared in a slightly different way, that you have a common line, everybody's got food, everybody's got water, everybody has energy. And then some people have things that other people don't have. You know, some people will raise cows, some people will raise chickens. Well, I think everybody should be raising chickens. You know, different people have different tools, different people have different talents, different people have different capabilities. And if you have a community where it is diverse enough that if an emergency happens, then you know everybody can band together and you can get through it a lot easier. Another thing that I think is really important to help people get through emergencies and catastrophes is to reduce your need for energy consumption. We have become a society that is reliant upon air conditioners, that is reliant upon refrigerators, that is reliant upon vehicles, that is reliant upon so much energy. But if we would just go back to a simpler lifestyle, go back to, and I don't mean minimalist, just simplify things. Just simplify things. You don't find ways that you can reduce your energy consumption without harming your lifestyle. And I think that would help a lot. I hope that none of us have to go through any sort of disaster or emergency that is going to require a community coming together for basic survival. But it's always good to be prepared just in case. And when there is a community that is prepared, then there's a lot less stress about the thought of an emergency. And that stress reduction brings a lot of security. And when people are secure, they're happier. So just prepping, just stockpiling, that's not enough. Community, that's going to go a long way, a long, long way. Until next time.